Good morning. It's Pastor Owen here from the Way Church. I wish we were together in the Lord's house this morning, but the snow has us all snowed in. You're probably just like me this morning, but nevertheless, I want to share something that has been on my heart this week in the form of just a short devotional to think on this week. And it comes from Job chapter 38, verses 4 through 7. Now, leading up to this, Job didn't just lose a few things in his life, but he had essentially lost everything. One day, oxen that he had were gone, the sheep were gone, the servants were dead, the house fell in and buried all 10 of his children, and before the dust had even settled with all that, his health followed right behind it. His body was covered in boils, he was sitting in ashes, and if that wasn't enough, the friends that showed up didn't come to comfort Job, but they came to accuse him. And they told him that this had to be his fault, that God must be punishing him for something that he had hidden or something that he had done in his life. But Job wasn't rebelling against God. He was just a man that was bleeding and confused and asking the question that every hurting person asks, why? God, why? I don't understand. Why? For 37 chapters of Job, Job has suffered in silence. He had argued with friends. He had searched his own heart. And he had cried out to God with questions that he had no answers for. His friends tried to explain God away. They tried to analyze him and they accused him. And they tried to use theology to explain his pain. But Job himself asked why. He pleaded for clarity and he wanted God to speak. But then God shows up, and not in a gentle explanation, not in some kind of soft answer to him, but out of a whirlwind, God shows up and he answers his why. And many times in life we may question why. Things happen to us. Why this door closed? Why that prayer that we prayed seemed to be unanswered? Or why the storm came when we were trying to live right and do right? And Job stood in that same place. His pain drove him to these questions. And God did not just rebuke him for asking why, but when God answered him, he lifted Job's eyes higher than the question he asked itself. And Job 38 verse 4 says, "Where wast thou when I laid the foundations of the earth?" God's response was not a timeline or an explanation, but it was a reminder that there is one that is greater than you and I. When God asks, "Where were you?" He is declaring his own sovereignty. He is saying, "I was God before your problem, I'll be God in the middle of your problem, and I'll still be God after your problem is over." And that truth is really reassuring to us, is that when things don't go our way, when it feels like everything around us is just falling apart, we're reminded that nothing is falling apart in God's hands. That same God who measured the earth and fastened its foundations and laid its cornerstone, that same God is the one who holds our lives together today. And even when we can't see how, when God speaks of the morning, the sons of God shouting for joy. He reminds us that when creation itself began, heaven rejoiced, and we can trust in the wisdom of God. We may never fully understand the why, but we can rest in the who, not in the why, but in the who. The God who hung the stars has not lost control, and the God who laid the foundations has not been shaken. The God who reigns in heaven is still sovereign over our lives today, and I can tell you that Romans 8:28 gives me a lot of comfort. It says, "For we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are the called according to His purposes." And we simply trust God, obey God, and leave the consequences to Him. And I'm glad to know that even when things happen in this life and I'm distressed, or things come against us and we don't know why, we can rest in not the why but in the who, that God is not sitting in heaven scratching his head, wringing his hands, thinking, "Oh man, what are we going to do now?" God is sovereign and God is holy. He's still in all power and all control, and there's a reason behind things. And and simply trust God, leave the consequences to Him. I hope that blesses you. I hope that's brought you some encouragement. That's brought me some encouragement this week. I look forward to being back together in the Lord's house with you guys again. Hopefully Wednesday we can get back for another Wednesday night. But really praying that we get back together next Sunday. I miss Sunday mornings with our church family. So we hope to see everybody there Wednesday night at 6:30 and Sunday morning at 11. So God bless you, my friends.